Alright, so here we go. Doors are pretty much the same on most of the models that we've seen. You got to remove this cup here that's hiding a screw. Handle has to come off on the 06, 07, and 08s. It's actually a nicer door card than this. You just pull the top off to get a screw there. Here you've got to pull this whole outside cover off. This is a clamshell, and you got to pry up at the bottom. And then there is one big screw in here, and then I think all we have are the push-in snaps that go all the way around the door. So let's go ahead. I'll pull these pieces off, and we'll get the card off. And remember, like most of the door cards, they clip over the top, so that when you get this loose, don't just pull it towards you. You got to lift it up, and you're going to need a little room anyway. We're going to have to disconnect power locks over here, and then this pops out. You can turn it sideways and leave it attached. You don't have to take the cable off, but you can get that off, and then the whole door card will come off. We'll also have to disconnect the tweeter. If you've got a model that has the tweeter separate here in the door, either on the Bose or the 6-speaker setup, that's actually attached to the card, whereas the bass driver is actually attached in on the door itself. So that'll also have to be disconnected. So disconnect the lock, disconnect the tweeter, and pull this out, and then you can just take the whole card right off to work on it. So we'll go ahead and we'll do this. The trick for prying these off, put some electrical tape around the screwdriver so that when you're prying here, you're not going to scratch the plastic on the door, because everything here is in fact plastic. So a little bit of tape helps to cover that. And for taking the door card off with the little push fasteners, you can do get a tool under there and so forth. I find doing it by hand works just about as well as anything. Just get your fingers underneath to get it started. And do not be surprised if some of the little plastic snaps in there disintegrate and break off, particularly after a couple of years. It's one of those products that is good to have a few spares on hand just to deal with. And then just lift up like this. We're being held now here by this piece. There are connectors on the top and bottom, which when you press them down will release this. So we can pull it out, turn it, and then slide it back through. You can do that from the, you can reach that from the top, okay. I'm going to release the tweeter so that I can shift this back a little bit, make it a little easier just to turn that and get it through. And then just like this. And then power lock. And here you go. So on the door card, the tweeter is actually mounted right here. Our speakers are, if you have the M800s, they're already a two-way. If you have our M600s, they're a full-range speaker. You do not need to use this. This is overly bright anyway. Plus, when you have more than one point source, in other words, if you have speakers spread around, you don't get as nice stereo imaging as you do if everything comes from one location. So the imaging is also much better when you simply use our speakers. So what you can do here is you can leave this in place just to fill the hole. Just don't reconnect it when you're done. Tie off the wire on the back, and then just deal with the other speakers. So let's set this aside. All right, and let's take a look at what we got here. This is interesting. This isn't a stock. This is a Pioneer speaker, which I never would have guessed it sounds as horrible as the originals. So somebody at least tried on this car to put something in a little bit better than the stock speaker. I'll show you that in a second. But this really does sound awful, so we'll be glad to get this out of here. 4 screws, and the connector for this sneaks in the side here and goes in around the back. Speaker's actually falling apart as I'm taking it out. Hope they didn't spend too much money for it. And a couple of connectors on the back. Now these nasty people have actually cut off the factory wires to put these on, which is not a nice thing to do. But we'll go ahead and let me get this wire tie off, and then we'll see what we got here to work with. Okay, so this isn't uncommon. You get a car used. We did buy this one used. So you never know what a previous owner has done with it. Unfortunately, this sort of thing, this looks like this might have been a better effort than some. They are sealed connectors, try to help keep corrosion out. I still think it's better, of course, if you do what we do, which is have the proper harness on it so it just plugs in and you don't have to cut the wire, because you always run the risk of screwing up the polarity, the plus and the minus of the speaker lead. If you do that, you get phase cancellation from one side to another, and it ruins the stereo imaging and also makes weird dropouts in the frequency response or peaks. So you're always better off if you can keep things the way they are rather than do this. But anyway, what we can do, we've got 2 choices. We can either see about putting a proper harness plug back onto this, or we can take this off and put on the connectors that are the normal ones for the speakers here. This is what's called a 110 connector. This is a 205. We could crimp those right onto the end of this. These will fit in. There's 2 little notches that correspond to these notches. Put these, go just like this. So we'll have plenty of speaker wire if I cut those off and put the proper connectors on. So probably do that. For the NA cars and the NBs, we have the replacement harness available so that if somebody's done this, you can put it back to stock. For the NCs, we don't. And then, just in case you wanted to know, the stock speaker is a 5x7, mounts just like that. Same speaker for the NA and the NB, the only difference is the plug on the back. Terrible sounding speakers also. So let me shut the camera off, see if we can get a couple of those connectors and get them crimped on. All right, I decided to actually do it right, and rather than just crimp some pieces on, I actually soldered on the correct leads so they just plug onto the speaker. I did check the other side. The other side is the original factory speaker, so they just replaced one speaker, which also you'd never do because you'd have a mismatch in the sound, but both sounded terrible, so I guess it was a match. So really it didn't make any difference. In our kit, we do give you brand new stainless steel screws to put the speaker in. I'm just going to reuse them here, and we give you a roll of gasketing tape. You can either put it around here or around the back of the speaker itself. The idea is just to make a nice seal here, and I'm just going to go ahead and push these on. These can sometimes go on really tight, which is another one of the reasons why we like to have them all correct, so that you're not doing this up at the car. You can just plug the harness in. And if you use our adapters, there won't be any extra slack. There's no clearance problems, windows or anything. And then the screws shouldn't really matter the order to put these back in. Just be careful putting them in that you don't pop and push them through the center of the speakers. We've all learned that from experience, so don't do that. So I'm going to take the tweeter lead, and just to keep it from rattling around, I'm just going to tape it to this other connector up here. If I add some tape. And for those of you that have the Bose setup in the doors, the only thing that's different about the door is this plastic insert. In fact, these are interchangeable. This was really smart on Mazda's part to design them this way, because then depending upon the trim, they just put a different piece of plastic into the door, and it's just a bunch of fasteners, and you can actually pull it right out and interchange it. With Bose, this will be a round opening as opposed to the oval opening here. The 81 mounting kit we have works with either one, so it doesn't make any difference which you have, it'll work fine. With that said, you're ready to put this all back together. Normally this would go a lot quicker than it did, except having to fool with those wires, but again, this is what can happen when you get a car that's used or had even many previous owners. We get this a lot with people with the first generation cars. There's been all kinds of crazy things. When you put the door card back on, it's inevitable some of these plastic snaps stay in the door. We've got a handy dandy little tool here for pulling them out. You can also pull them out with a pair of needle nose without too much trouble. It's easier if you mount these back into the door card, so that then when you put it back on, you can just snap them into place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And these are available from Mazda, and plus there's some aftermarket ones that are available as well. So let me go ahead and get the door card, and we'll put that back into place. Button it back up. Alright, got the door card back on. It's just the reverse of the removal. And actually going to do a little bit of listening. I can't do all of this on the recording because YouTube, if they see more than, if the computers pick up more than 10 or 15 seconds of copyrighted music, they actually get a little upset about that. So two things we're going to do, though. We're going to do two EQs. We're going to do one, the first one, which is with the car just sitting. Then we're going to do a second one, which would be with engine running, driving along, because the difference that you're going to get with road noise and so forth is fairly significant. So let's actually hear what we've got if we do this one with completely flat EQ. Let me just go up here, flat, and let's go ahead and give it a couple of seconds. I'm going to use Steely Dan. You want something that's really well recorded. These guys were fanatics about really good quality audio recordings. Everything that they did was good. So pick out something that you know well and that is really well recorded. Don't use FM broadcast or some crappy old CD that you just found around someplace. Yeah, okay, we'll pause it right there. Flat is perfect. That's the way the speakers were designed for the acoustic volume of the doors, and they sound great. Balance left to right. Let's see what I got here. I've got a little bit to the rear and slightly to the left. I'll zoom this in so you guys can see that. A little bit better. That's just personal preference as well. And again, as far as the EQ goes, just a flat response on that. Now, I already did a test driving Custom 1. What I actually did is, to overcome the road noise, I brought it up 6 decibels at 80 hertz, tiny bit at 500, 3 decibels at 500, and then between, this is 3.15 and 5K, I brought it up again about 6 decibels, and also a little bit at 12.5K. That's mostly just to help with wind noise. So 2 EQs, and it's nice when you have a radio that's like this, then you can, bounce back and forth between if you're just sitting in the car or if you're out driving, to get you a nice response. But turned out really good. Really happy with it. We still have the microphone to place someplace and the remote camera. We'll probably go ahead and take care of that in another video. Okay guys, that's it. Hope you've enjoyed this series of videos about installing the stereo system and the M800 speakers in 3rd Gen Miata. We'll do a couple of follow-up videos separate from this series. We'll do one with a backup camera and the mic for the hands-free phone. More importantly, we'll take care of these rear speakers. We have some products in development, and we'll go ahead and take care of that. And that's going to make a huge difference. What you get out of these rear speakers is crossed over so high, and there's really almost no audio benefit to it at all. So that'll be a huge improvement for the sound in the cars. So anyway, hope you've enjoyed this. Hope this helps you guys out with your Miatas. Please subscribe to our channel. Give us a like if you found these useful. We've got the links down below, take you back to our channel if you missed any of the earlier episodes. We had 4 or 5, because we went into some depth on doing this install, so go back and check those out as well. And hope everybody does get to enjoy your Miatas, whatever year you have, and hope you enjoy the sound from 3rd Millennium. Thanks very much.